Good morning, AP Macro students. Today you're going to do a simulation of a market, and I'm not going to be here. So I wanted to record the instructions to help you out, and then student assistants, either Emily Ruin or Alex Lee, are going to help run the simulation. So the simulation is, we're going to put supply and demand together, and we're going to look at how markets arrive at equilibrium price. And then we're going to take it a little bit further and explain how markets, why markets sometimes have shortages or surpluses. And tomorrow we'll come back to the next part, which is consumer and producer surplus. So in the simulation, some of you are going to be buyers of cocoa, and some of you are going to be sellers of cocoa. And you're going to interact in a market, and we're going to see if an equilibrium price emerges. So the way this is going to work, you will be given an activity sheet that will give you a place to record all of your transactions. And that's activity 4.3. And ultimately, just so you know, you're going to be responsible for turning in on Friday completed activity 4.3, 4.4, and 4.5 and 4.6. So there are going to be a number of different things that you're going to hand in as part of completing this activity and then debriefing it. So you'll be given 4.3, and we'll look at that in just a minute. And you're also going to be given a buyer card or a seller card. And the cards are different colors depending on whether you're a buyer or seller. So the buyers will have green cards and the sellers will have yellow cards. I think they're yellow. Let me double check. Yes, they are. So if you are a buyer, you will be a buyer for the entire game. You will only use that individual card once, and each time you make a transaction, you will turn it in to the student assistant, and then you will get a new card. So you should familiarize yourself with the card, but don't get too attached to it because you're going to have to turn it in. So if you're a buyer, your buyer card will say something like, you want to buy a unit of cocoa. You're willing and able to pay, and it'll have a price. Let's say it'll say $20 for this unit. But you want to pay the lowest price you can. The lower the price you negotiate, the greater your gain. So you're going to go into a negotiation with a seller offering to pay not 20, but maybe 15. The seller might say, no, I'm only going to sell for 25. And then you might offer 16. Right? So you're going to keep negotiating. And on your activity sheet, you are going to record, call this transaction number 1. You're going to record the amount on your card, which is 20, and then you're going to negotiate a price, and let's say you end up paying 18, okay, and then your gain is going to be 2, because you were willing to spend up to 20, but you only had to spend 18, so you get a positive 2. Let's say your next card says 15, and you end up paying 18. Then you're going to get a negative 3, okay, because you're actually losing money on that transaction. You're spending more than you were willing to. So that's the situation for the buyers. Now let's go back and look at the seller card. Okay, the seller card is very similar. It says you want to sell a unit of cocoa. This costs you blank to produce. So let's pretend that it says it cost you $22 to produce. But you want to sell it for the highest price you can. So you'd like to sell it for like 30, right? You don't want to sell it for 22. And by the way, both buyers and sellers, you don't want to let the person you're negotiating with know what your card says. Okay, that's secret information. You don't want to share that. So you're going to start negotiating, not letting them know. Okay, so the seller is negotiating with a buyer, and the seller let's say you want to sell for 30, and the buyer says, I'll only pay 20, and you say, okay, 28, and then they offer 22, and finally you bring it down to say 25. So on the seller's card, you would say the card says 22, I got someone to buy it for 25, so I have a profit of 3. Again, if you sell it for less than the amount on your card, then it's going to be negative. So you're going to fill out this transaction sheet every time you make a deal. And the way this activity is going to work is, once the teacher tells you to begin, everyone's going to get up and you're going to go try to negotiate with all the possible people you can. You want to find the person that you can get the best deal with. So if you are a buyer and your card says 25, right, you want to buy from the person who's willing to sell it to you at the very least possible. So you're going to have to talk to a lot of different people. When you have an agreement, the two of you need to come up with your cards together, and you need to give the price that you agreed to the student assistant. So there will be a list of prices on the board, and let's say you come up and say, we agreed to $22, okay? Then the student assistant will make a hash mark. Maybe the next pair comes up and they say 25, right? And the next 20. And so that's going to be their job, is to record the prices of all the transactions and also help distribute new cards. So you're going to tell the price on your transaction, and then you're going to turn in your cards and get new cards. and then you're going to go back at it again. So a few other things. There are going to be 2 rounds, even though it indicates 3 on here. We don't really have time for that. Okay, you're free to make as many transactions in a round as you want. Your transactions have to be in whole dollar amounts. Okay, you're not going to do $27.50 or $22.10. As I said, once the price is negotiated, you are going to report it to the recorder. You also need to, as I said earlier, record it on your own score sheet. You do not need to calculate your profits and losses on every transaction as you go. You can do that when the round ends. Let's see, it is permissible to take a loss, okay, but losses will be subtracted from your gains. And I think that's it. So once you are done, you're going to pause and you're going to have a little bit of a discussion about what you see on this chart. You're going to turn in all of your cards from round 1, and then you'll get distributed new cards and you will run round 2. And after round 2, you're going to talk a little bit about the price and how you arrived at the price. And then, as I said, you have a couple of other things to complete. So the teacher will hand out to you activities 4.4, 4.5, and 4.6. And you should complete all of those and bring them to class with you on Friday. And I believe that is it.